Florida. I'm going to be talking today, answering some questions about my new workbook, Clinician's Guide to Gaslighting. And this is for clinicians that are working with people that are in abusive relationships. They are experiencing someone that is telling them that they're crazy and that they shouldn't rely on their own life experience or own reality. And so they are questioning themselves. They're wondering what they're doing wrong in the relationship. And so this workbook's got a bunch of different activities you can do with clients, activities for you as the clinician, and just also for people that aren't clinicians, it might be helpful as well. There's a lot of worksheets in there. So I'm going to be answering some questions today about the workbook. It just came out last week. And it talks about things like differentiating between poor communication and gaslighting in a relationship, because we all tend to have communication issues in relationships at some point. But what's the difference between that and when it's pathological? So we'll get into that too. And I think that's one of the questions that's going to be asked. So I'll start answering some questions. So let's see. What should clients understand about gaslighting that may be different from what they've heard from social media and pop culture? I'd actually add to what's available on pop culture and social media that because I think there's a lot of great information available, and more people are becoming aware of what gaslighting is. I have more people calling me or emailing me and referring to gaslighting and saying, I think that I'm being gaslit in this relationship, or I think I'm experiencing gaslighting. And that's new. I noticed right around 2015, 2016 is when I started hearing more about gaslighting just in general terms and colloquial language. And now, because of it, I think in large part social media, people are contacting me using that term. So uh, what I would add to it is that how much gaslighting impacts all aspects of life. It can cause quality of life issues, not only in your relationship, but also your interactions with the community, interactions with your family and friends, interactions at work. When you are being pressured so much in your relationship or wherever you're experiencing gaslighting, it can decrease your quality of life in all other areas, because this type of behavior takes over your thought pattern. So instead of being able to go to work and doing a reasonably good job at work, you are thinking about, why is this person upset with me? What did I do wrong? Um, is this happening? Why are they doing this behavior? So it really takes over all aspects of life. Another thing I'd add too is just the high rate of having post-traumatic stress disorder after experiencing this type of relationship, because gaslighting is part of emotional abuse, which is part of domestic violence. So whenever you have extended exposure to domestic violence, you are more likely to have PTSD, and that can result in flashbacks. It can result in a host of other physical issues too. And that's the other thing I bring up also, is that not only does gaslighting impact you brain-wise, it also can cause increased insomnia, increased migraines, increased irritable bowel syndrome, and because your immune system has been weakened by the stress. Also, gaslighters tend to prey on people who are vulnerable. What I mean by vulnerable is if you have a medical condition, if you're going through grieving, the gaslighter will tend to zero in on you because they feel like you are more amenable to coercion, meaning that if you're really not feeling good because of life changes or because of some things you're going through, the gaslighter kind of preys upon that and feels like, oh, well, here's an opportunity for me to control this person. So that's what I would add to what's available on social media, is that not only is the impact of it so far reaching, but also that it's really important to get help from a mental health professional, because again, you have experienced domestic violence, you have been sometimes a victim of a crime, and so it's really important to talk with someone about what you've experienced. When we verbalize things, we are able to process them, and also a mental health professional will help you process as well. So that can help you work through that time period after you may have gone no contact or low contact with a gaslighter. Really important that you talk with someone about that. And it also helps you set up for success in the future too. And you can also discuss maybe some family of origin issues as well, especially if the gaslighter is somebody in your family. And also look at some patterns that may have happened early on in your life and how they relate to how things are going now. So talking to a mental health professional is really essential. So, okay, next question. Okay. How do we help clients discern whether the other person is intentionally gaslighting them or they just have poor communication? One of the things I ask is this a new event? Is this something that has been building over time? Because gaslighting is a type of emotional abuse that things don't start out with gaslighting. So, in a relationship, in an unhealthy relationship like this, a toxic relationship, you start out with love bombing. You start out with someone telling you the best thing ever, that they push for commitment really early on. They may tell you how terrible everyone else is. Now they've been targeted at work and all their exes are terrible. And that's a big red flag. And the idealization or love bombing phase gets you hooked. And then once you're hooked, then the devaluing process starts, which means that they start picking on you. They start picking on your body type. They start picking on what you're wearing. They start being just kind of vaguely dissatisfied and telling you that it's your fault, and then they won't verbalize what's wrong. That's what gaslighting looks like. When it's poor communication, a lot of us weren't taught in school or other places how to do healthy communication relationship. That's just not something that we talk about very often. So if a relationship is one where you're just having issues with stating what your needs are or knowing what your needs are, feeling like you're not being heard, um, if it's just poor communication, there still is an underlying level of respect and caring. When there's gaslighting, that's control and power. So that's one of the main differentiations between them. So again, a healthy relationship, you have respect and caring. In a gaslighting relationship, you have power and control, and you have someone trying to isolate someone, someone trying to make someone feel less than. And we'll talk a little bit more about different ways that people do that. But when you're having poor communication, that's something that maybe you go to couples therapy and you talk about how to do more active listening. You talk about how to express your needs, how to be heard, how to paraphrase what your partner's saying to make sure you understood it correctly. Even scheduling times to meet to talk about hot button topics. But when you have gaslighting, again, you have uh, underlying pathology. Now, it doesn't mean that the gaslighter has a diagnosable disorder. They may or they may not. But when you have someone that is gaslighting you, intuitively, you can feel a sense of just kind of impending ick. I can't think of a clinical word other than ick. It's really important to pay attention to your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. So you may be told by the gaslighter to not pay attention to intuition, that you can't be trusted anyway, but it's really important to listen to yourself. When it's poor communication only, you may feel frustrated, but you don't get that sense of impending doom. You don't get that sense of things are falling apart. When you have gaslighting, you may feel just perpetually stuck. You may feel very isolated. You may feel like you are not yourself anymore. And poor communication, you just feel a sense of, hey, this could be better. So pay attention to how you feel. And again, gaslighting is a gradual process, but does go in stages. So you have the idealization or love bombing phase, then you have devaluing, and then eventually you have discard, which means that you are either dropped or you exit the relationship, or you go no contact, low contact. So that's a little bit of the difference between poor communication and gaslighting. So, what are the telltale signs that a client is experiencing gaslighting? One of the main things that people experience is being told that what they saw or heard is not what happened. So, you are told that, no, you didn't see me do that. You didn't hear me say that. So, you're starting to question your sanity. You're starting to question your perception of things. Because here's someone that previously was pretty nice to you, treated you well. Now, all of a sudden, they're telling you that you're crazy, that what you saw and heard aren't what you saw and heard. They may also hide items on you and then blame you for them. I especially see, because I specialize in ADHD and anxiety, is that ADHD and anxiety will be weaponized against people. So someone with ADHD will have a item of great sentimental or monetary value hidden on them. Like, for instance, I have quite a few clients that have their wedding rings hidden on them. And they are then told by their partner, well, if you cared about the relationship, if you cared about so much, you would know exactly where your wedding ring was. You're so irresponsible. Your ADHD is causing our relationship to fall apart. So my clients blame for something that the gaslighter perpetuated. So I see that quite a bit. I was asked once in an interview, how often does that really happen? And it happens more than people think, that people have their items hidden on them. The gaslighter will also use what I call invisible armies. They will say, oh, all these people think you're crazy, or nobody likes you. But when you ask who are these people, the gaslighter can't really come up with someone, because they're creating this other. They're creating this large group of people that supposedly don't think that you're sane, when in fact those people don't exist, right? Or it may be that they're on an online forum, or they've been telling their friends just one side of the story, but you're not getting a really clear, accurate perception. So you get a lot of that as well. You also will get the gaslighter will say to you, I don't trust your friends and family. Whenever you're with them, you're different. I don't like the way you act. You're terrible to me when you get back from spending time with them. And one of the reasons for doing that is they're trying to isolate you from people that may tell you that this relationship is not healthy. So, for example, if the gaslighter knows that you're close with your sister and that you share personal information with them, the gaslighter will usually target that relationship and say, what, I really don't like your sister. She's got, I don't like her morals. I don't like how she behaves. She's a terrible person. Or they will do triangulation, which means that they will say, oh, your sister said some really terrible stuff about you. And I think you have a right to know what they said. I think you have a right to know is in every gaslighter's playbook. They seem to use this phrase across around the world, basically. And so they'll say, well, they said this terrible thing about you and you have a right to know. And then they'll tell you whatever the terrible thing was. Human nature is that when you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't question it. You just go, wow, what a jerk my sister's being. And you may even cut contact with your sister or get angry with them. And that's what the gaslighter wants. The gaslighter wants you to isolate from those people. Again, because your sister is one of those people that's probably going to tell you, hey, you don't seem like yourself. This relationship doesn't seem healthy. But however, the main goal of that, again, the gaslighter's lying about what your sister said, so you will have less contact with them. The gaslighter loves nothing more than to isolate you from the people you care about and to have all your attention focused on them. But it's never enough attention. The attention that one person can give the gaslighter is never going to fill their need for ego fulfillment, right? So we have people that have, if you're talking about gaslighters, that they need their ego constantly fed. And again, just one person, if you spend all your focus on them, which again, not healthy at all, but if you spend all your time focusing on them, it still would not be enough, and they would not be happy. They would still resent that they need you to focus on them. So either way, you can't win. So also you are blamed for the relationship. You're told that your ADHD or anxiety or depression or what other medical issue you have is causing issues in the relationship. You're told that the relationship is 100% your fault. You are sometimes ridiculed in public. You are told in many different ways that you cannot trust yourself. And again, that you need to rely on the gaslighter's version of reality. So that's a little bit what it looks like when you are experiencing gaslighting. You are told to not trust yourself. You are told that your version of reality is wrong. And again, human nature is then we rely on the person that pointed out that our version of reality is wrong. We rely on their version of reality because we assume that that's the one that's correct. So next question, let's see. When going no contact, such as when a gaslighter is a co-parent, what strategies or resources do you recommend? If you are co-parenting with a gaslighter, yes, going no contact is usually not a possibility. But what I do recommend is go to a family law attorney, ask them what their experience has been when someone is separating or divorcing from someone that has been emotionally abusive. Many family law attorneys are well versed in the type of behaviors that someone that's gaslighting or has narcissistic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies, what behaviors they will do when the relationship is ending. And you want to have a really detailed parenting plan. And that means you want to have a parenting plan that clearly states how the parties are going to communicate. I recommend communicating over a co-parenting app. That way, every interaction is time and date stamped. You're not getting into conflicts over the phone. You aren't getting into conflicts over email. You're staying to one form of communication. You can actually have in the parenting plan that this is the only way we're going to communicate with each other is over the co-parenting app. You can also upload receipts to that too if you are splitting costs of things. That's another thing you want to put in your parenting plan is how are costs going to be divided? After school activities, uh, also medical, how is that going to be split in cost? Also, who has decision making power? Parent A, parent B, a combination, or parent A gets to overrule parent B? And that can be in different areas medical decision making, counseling decisions, school, and also if your child is approaching an age where they're going to a different school, you can also add to that when you're going to revisit the child going to another school if you have disagreements with which school the child will go to. The parenting plan even says like who claims the child on which years for taxes. You want to get as detailed as possible, which for the healthier parent that can be a real pain because you're having to follow this plan. But also the parenting plan is the default. It's the one you're going to fall back on. So if the gaslighting co-parent tries to change up exchange times with you or tells you, no, I never said 3, I always meant 4, you always fall back to the parenting plan. You say, oh, really? The parenting plan says this. So let's just stick with what that says. That has saved a lot of parents from a lot of strife because when you go with the parenting plan, that's documented, that's signed off by a judge, that's a legal document. So I see that the gaslighters tend to create less chaos when you have a clear parenting plan of who is supposed to do what when. And again, I really recommend using a co-parenting app. Also, uh, if the gaslighter is somebody in your family, and let's say there's a holiday gathering and you don't really want to be around the gaslighter, but there's other people in your family you want to be around, limit the amount of time that you're there. Say, I'm going to be there for an hour, and just say, I need to leave at 6, and you don't have to tell anybody why. And I recommend bringing somebody with you, a healthy friend or family member that can act as a buffer. So if the gaslighter sees you and they make a beeline for you, then the buffer person can stop them and say, hey, how about I distract you and do this other thing? You can also have a nonverbal signal between the two of you, like scratching your head or coughing, and that means I need to get out of here now. Always bring your own transportation to family events. And then also ask yourself if the family members know that this person has behaved this way and they're still including them in activities, do you really want to be a part of those activities? Are they enabling this type of behavior? Have they made excuses for the person gaslighting? Because maybe you don't even want to attend those family gatherings. But it's really important to put a cap on the time that you're going to spend with them. And also, again, have a buffer, have someone that knows what the background story is, and so they can intervene if the gaslighter come towards you. So low contact to no contact. No contact means shutting off all social media, blocking the person, even possibly deleting your social media accounts. Because what a gaslighter will do is they will use that as a way to hoover you or suck you back into the relationship. They will post fun pictures. They'll post their new supply. So if the person has narcissistic tendencies, they're seeking out new supply because you are no longer in the relationship. So they will find someone else and they will post pictures online. And that can really impede healing when someone is looking at the narcissist photos. The photos that people place online are highlight reels, right? They're not the behind the scenes. So because gaslighters tend to carry on this pattern of behavior, you can rest assured that the new partner is going to go through the same stuff that you've gone through in the relationship. I do have people ask me, should I contact the new partner and give them a heads up as to what this person really is like? I generally don't recommend that because you're inviting contact from the gaslighter. And it's also very possible that the gaslighter has told their new partner that you're crazy, that you're unstable, because they know that you might be contacting to tell them what the truth is. So I really don't recommend doing that because many times a new partner will say, oh, well, they told me that you're crazy. They told me not to trust you. They'll find out on their own eventually. So you don't need to do that for them. So again, going no contact, easier said than done, but you need to go radio silence again. Cutting off social media is one of the most important parts of that. You may need to block people that were mutual friends of yours because they're posting pictures of this person on social media. And just limiting your social media contact overall can be helpful. So also blocking any emails, any phone numbers, any way they can reach out to you. Now, the other issue is that they will employ flying monkeys, who are people that are mutual acquaintances of yours, that they're sending messages from the gaslighter to you. So you run into a mutual friend and they say, "Oh, so and so really misses you. They really wish that you were back with them. They're so sad." And they're doing that because you blocked the gaslighter. So they're trying to get to you any way they can to hoover you back in, to suck you back in. So it's really important if you run into that, that you say to the person, "Hey, you know what? Talking about this person, that's a no-fly zone. We're not going to go there." And if they continue to bring up this person, then you just have to walk away. And that can be hard to do, but you also need to set firm limits that this person is not somebody we're going to talk about. I'm not entertaining any kind of messages from them. And like those are called flying monkeys, the people that send those messages, because of Wizard of Oz, Wicked Witch of the West would use flying monkeys to carry messages. So that's where that comes from. Let's see. Okay, so next question. So, how do the clients or therapist experiences of gaslighting affect the therapeutic relationship? It's really important for clinicians that if they are working with people that have had trauma, including people who have been in gaslighting relationships, that they are seeking their own therapy, especially because there's always reasons why we got into this field. So it's really important that we work through those. And when we work with clients, sometimes our own stuff can get triggered. We can have counter transference with our clients, so it's really important to continue your own work, and also check in with yourself and make sure that you are taking good care of yourself. We can sometimes have nightmares about stuff that clients have told us, so it's really important to be aware of that. If you're experiencing that, it's time to check in with your own mental health professional. It helps to talk to a mental health professional that has experience with working with other clinicians that worked with people with trauma, because we sometimes hear some really horrible things that people do to each other. So it's really important that that we also watch for signs of burnout, which means feeling like you don't make a difference, having thoughts of suicidality, feeling like what's the point, viewing other people as inherently bad people, treating people in your family or friend circle differently because they may resemble or they may remind you of a client's perpetrator. That can happen as well. It's really important that we talk with our own clinicians about that. Also, studies have found that if you're in a workplace that has a lack uh, of supervisory support, if you have a workplace that does not have uh, guidelines for how to help clients or how to help employees. If you work in a place that you feel like your voice isn't really going to be heard, you are more likely to have burnout. So, and you could probably be like, "Well, yeah, I know," because it really helps to have support. But it's a little bit different when you see in a study that yes, it's been proven that having a lack of support, having too many clients on your caseload, that's also been found through research to greatly increases the chances of burnout. Really important that we get that taken care of. We need to check in with our own level of competency, and that could be competency personally and also professionally. So, again, if you're a therapist where you have people who have been traumatized, it's really important that you continue your own therapy and talk about your own possible triggers. For clients, experience with gaslighting, it can be really hard for clients to trust someone when they have experienced gaslighting. So it may take some time to build up rapport with someone because they've been hurt by someone. So, and counseling, if you think about the process of counseling, you're going to someone you don't know and talking about your deep personal stuff you've never shared with anybody, and it can be a really kind of scary, odd, awkward process. And so, it's really important that as clinicians that we spend time just getting to know the person. We develop rapport with them before we start getting into heavy stuff, unless the client brings it up first. It's really important that we ease into that. I also have a very detailed consent form where I talk about what my office policies are, the fact that counseling is completely voluntary, that you can stop at any time with no consequence to you. I make sure I spell out the client's rights and my rights all in that document. I think it's about 5 or 6 pages. So, and my consent, I make sure that that the person's read over the consent. Do they have any questions? Because part of being a clinician is we need to encourage independence and autonomy. And that means the client making their own decisions, right? The best day is when someone says to me, I don't need to come in anymore. I feel like I've got the tools I need, and they can still check in with me sometimes. But that's a great day. So I make sure I put that in the consent form, is that you may feel like, when you're able to face life's struggles without my help, then that's a wonderful thing. So I think it's something that, again, counseling the process we need to look at it from the client's point of view, that it can be stressful, and people may be going against cultural norms to come see you. They may have been threatened with being disowned if they go to see you. So people have a lot of things on the line when they come to see you. So we really need to also acknowledge how brave it is to seek help. So let's see, what other questions do we have? Oh, that's it. Cole says that's it. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I'm Dr. Stephanie Sarkis, and my new workbook is The Clinician's Guide to Gaslighting. It has a lot of worksheets for clinicians, for their clients, and also, just if you're not a clinician, you may find those worksheets helpful too. Part of it includes also helping you rebuild after you leave this type of relationship. So thank you everyone for joining me. I appreciate it.